fight on the landing ground.
Thank you for joining us. You are listening to A Radio, and this is The Morning Moment. Please click on the follow button on Spreaker.com. I became aware yesterday, November 27, that Paul Weston of the Liberty GB party had folded his tent and was getting behind Ann Marie Waters, the For Britain party. This, as I said, could be a game changer for UK politics. This is a special that I've done on Paul Weston, and in particular the comment that he has made. I have taken his statement and edited it for time. I will put the link to his full statement on my site. But this statement is very significant because rather than the small parties fighting among each other, I believe they have taken the higher ground for the benefit of the UK. I wonder if UKIP and others can be big enough to come together to challenge the status quo that is the current situation in Western politics. There will be much more on this in the weeks and months to come. But to my Canadian followers, don't be downhearted. This is just a taster of the battle we have yet to face here in Canada. But I know we're up to the task. And for those of you out there who said we got what we voted for, well, so did you. You had Obama, but we tried to help you rather than making sarcastic comments. No, you need to be big enough, and so do we, to put our petty comments aside. Canada is crying out for help from the world. Canada is crying out for its very freedom. Please don't turn your back on us in our hour of need. Thank you.
Can Britain be saved democratically is really the question of our time. I'm inclined to think perhaps it isn't. So Britain faces enormous problems in the future because the entire establishment refuses to do anything about what I consider to be the most serious threat, or worse, it is a bigger threat than Nazism and communism over the 20th century. Islamism is going to be the downfall of the West, possibly, but certainly as you look at England and Britain today, we don't have anything like the clout in terms of resisting Islam that Holland does with Geert Wilders and France with Marine Le Pen. The Sweden Democrats are now polling first in Sweden. The AfD in Germany is doing really well. You look at all sorts of European countries and they have got proportional representation, helps enormously in getting MPs, which we don't have, but they are doing astonishingly well. Some of the countries do not have the same level of threat that Britain does, but nonetheless they are still doing far better. I mean, not just a bit better, but we are nothing. We have nothing in this country at all. Anti-Islamization parties will come to power in Europe over the next 5 years. And meanwhile in Britain we have, as I say, absolutely nothing. And I don't think our electoral system really allows for it. And I don't really know whether Britain can be saved via the ballot box, via the electoral process. It's quite possible that in years to come we're going to have a situation like the Troubles in Northern Ireland, and it's going to become violent. And that wouldn't surprise me at all, because if you do not have the democratic process, if you cannot vote for a party that can make a difference to the very real threat to our children and grandchildren, then what do you do? And I foresee in the future that it will become violent, and politicians will be targeted, possibly for assassination, as will members of the media. And I know it sounds appalling, but in 10 years' time, if we do not have a proper party in this country to peacefully try to deal with this through the democratic process, this is what I think is coming our way. I don't see the point of running two political parties side by side when they have really essentially the same vision on Islam in particular. So one party is going to have to go, and I think that's got to be Liberty GB, because the momentum is now behind For Britain and Ann Marie Waters. it doesn't bother me in the slightest. All I've ever wanted for this country was to see someone get somewhere in this political sphere, and I was never doing this for me. I mean, let's face it, it is not the sort of thing you do for enjoyment. It's unpleasant, and at times it can be quite frightening. Think about what you need in a leader like Ann Marie, and you come down to very few people that can actually do this. First of all, you need to have the knowledge and the ability to actually do the job. Secondly, you have to be brave enough to do it, and very few people are. And thirdly, you have to have the ability that when you go on to a prime-time political show, you humiliate them. They do not humiliate you, as so many so-called right-wing people have happened to them in the past. Ann Marie Waters will absolutely slaughter any left-leaning journalist on any media show you care to name, because we have the truth on our side, and we have morality on our side, and we have decency on our side. We are protesting about the most terrible crimes and the most terrible future for our children and grandchildren. This is not something that can easily be defeated by left-leaning journalists. In fact, they are terrified of it. I have had interviews pulled and interviews cancelled when they try to attack you and you turn the tables on them. So Ann Marie Waters is one of the very, very few people, possibly the only one, that can actually do this at the moment. And it's imperative that people now get behind, for Britain, that they get behind Ann Marie Waters, and they try to make this a far-fetched situation of actually within 2 election cycles coming to power. They have to try to make it happen, because if it doesn't happen, as I said earlier, we are going to go down the Northern Ireland terrorist route. I'm absolutely convinced about this. So get behind Ann Marie Waters. It is one of the most important issues. It is the most important issue of the 21st century. So please do this, and people who have recently joined Liberty GB, I apologise for pulling out of this now. So thank you very much for supporting Liberty GB over the last few years. I think really it would have been nicer to have been more successful, but now let's get behind someone that can hopefully be far more successful than Liberty GB. And thank you for your support over the years. I myself will be joining Ann Marie Waters' party, and I encourage everybody else to do so.
You can find more at aradio.wordpress.com, where you can find links to us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Gab, and email. We are continuing to reach out to you, so please pass on the links. Please click on the follow button on Spreaker.com. You can listen to all my morning moments at Spreaker.com under A Radio, that's EHRADIO, A Radio. And please click on the like button. And you can find all my podcasts and morning moments at aradio.wordpress.com and click on the Morning Moments tab.